All right. Is this thing on? Yeah. Yep. Okay. Let's get the show on the road. Well, hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Jim and Rob Overanalyze Movies. Today with a special guest. Yes, welcome everyone to my channel and, of course, to the real show, Jim and Rob Overanalyze Movies. Of course, tonight we are going to be looking at Jordan Peele's Nope. That said, before we get into that, got a couple of announcements for you and a story I wanted to briefly touch on and point you in the right direction before we get into this. So let's do that. First of all, I want to let everyone know that I saw a couple other movies this weekend, and there'll be kind of a short, think of a solo virtual parking lot reaction coming out later tonight or tomorrow, and that is for Bullet Train and Prey. Bullet Train, of course, being in the theaters, and Prey being a great streaming flick from Disney Plus if you're here in Canada. Of course, Hulu down in the United States of America. Now, the other thing I wanted to talk about, folks, was Batgirl. For anyone following, the insanity that is Hollywood, you may have heard that the Batgirl movie shot, ready to go in test screenings now. HBO as HBO, Warner Brothers, HBO Max, they've killed it. Basically said, no one's going to, this is not going to see the light of day, not on our streaming service, not in screens. It sounds like it's basically a fallout from the recent merger of Discovery and Warner Brothers. And so it makes more financial sense just to kill the thing, warehouse it, shelve it permanently because of merger rules. Anyway, Dan Murrell has a fantastic, this is Dan Murrell, and I know he looks like a crazy man there, but he has an outstanding rant. First of all, he's got a great backgrounder on it. Link in the description where he kind of goes into the whole bit of the recent history, what is probably going on here, and then he kind of rips into corporate thinking and how they all love to say that they know the future, and he picks on a certain corporate slide because, of course, he's not a young kid. He's had some experience in many organizations. He's heard corporate bullshit before. So great YouTube movie guy, definitely worth the subscribe. Although if you're watching us, you've probably seen him because he's way bigger than we are. Anyway, check it out. Link, like I said, link in the description. Let's get back to this movie, the movie we're talking about. Anyway, let me pull up my show notes. Make sure I did everything I said I was going to do. Yep, Batgirl, check. Dan Murrell, check. All right. Oh my goodness. The time when you really could use a producer, eh? All right. Nope. Directed. Here's the log line from IMDb. The residents of a lonely gulch in inland California bear witness to an uncanny and chilling discovery. Written and directed, of course, by Jordan Peele. Stars Daniel Kaluuya and Keke Palmer. Also stars Stephen Yeun, Michael Wincott, Brandon Perea, and I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. And in a short but very cool bit, Keith David. It also has a few other noteworthy, almost like cameos. Oz Perkins, who plays a commercial director at the beginning of the movie, is actually the son of Anthony Perkins. Donna Mills has a weirdly entertaining cameo in this. Um, that's what's going on there. Let's get into the social nutrition checklist. Yeah, would it qualify for a reframe stamp? No. Is it union made? Yes. Would it? Did it pass the Bechdel test? It did not. And is it a class conscious film? I'm gonna say yes. Would some formal Marxist would the folks who started Cahiers de Cinema back in the 50s go, oh yes, this totally fits within our Marxist film reading? Probably not. But yeah, this I think it's got a class consciousness. Although I'm looking forward to hearing what Jim and Catherine have to say. Okay. So with that out of the way, let's bring in our wonderful co-hosts for tonight, Jim and Catherine. And because it's that kind of night, and I think we're going to have that kind of awesome conversation about this flick, why don't we, bear with me, everyone, why don't we jump right into it? And Catherine, why don't you start us? Jim and I have already done we've done our parking lot reaction, which I'll post a card to, and there is a link in the description. But why don't you start with your take on this flick? You're spoiler free.
Thought it was good. It was, there were bits that were a bit gruesome, but I really liked. I like the acting was fantastic. The pacing was great. It kept your attention the whole way through, and yeah, it was recommend.
Oh, fantastic. Before we move forward, I forgot one more thing: historicity. Now, the film kind of hooks on and this is right in the first act. I think it's even part of the promotion, but really early on in the first act, the family purports to be related to the jockey that is filmed in The Horse in Motion, which may be the first. Is it a motion picture? But it was an experiment with a bunch of timed photographs to see if horses' feet actually left the ground when they galloped. And there was a black jockey, of course, uncredited, unnamed. There may be something in the film about this sort of thing. But I think as far as historicity goes, that's really the only kind of historical claim they make, definitely for creative reasons. That said, the story in and of itself is fascinating. I recommend you check out the Wikipedia article. There is a link in the description. The other thing, though, I did was because it is such an important part of this film, is really, let's say, Black African American representation in film. And I found, first of all, a great longish magazine length maybe piece on CBC Radio, From Servants to Outlaws: 100 Years of Black Representation in Hollywood Films. There's also links within it of a two-parter ideas podcast episodes that also dive into the subject. So that's a great place to start. Of course, there's some really solid books out there that I suggest you look up if you want a deeper dive, but this is a great way to get started. Sorry about that, guys.
No.
Would you guys agree that this was a remarkably well-made film, well-told story, well-produced? Excellent. Oh,
Well shot too. I mean, there's
Yeah.
a bunch. If you look up Twitter on Twitter, you look up Nope. This is sort of a new thing, but people show 4 shots. They'll just say Nope 2022, and they'll
yeah.
show 4 shots as if to say, check out this, check out the framing of this, the composition of this shot. Those are all over Twitter right now,
Yeah.
and I was just looking at them before I came in. But yeah, well shot as
So
well.
you would agree?
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
it's a
absolutely,
well-made
yeah.
movie. Okay.
Yeah.
Well-told story.
Mm.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, with that in mind, I want to jump right into the meaning then. Although I am sure there's so much praiseworthy in this film regarding the performances, regarding the production values. You're absolutely right. The cinematography is fantastic. But I think starting with what the movie means is a great way to bring in those other things organically as we dive into it. With that in mind, I've just realized my lighting is quite dim. With that in mind, I'm going to ask you guys, and I'll ask you. I want you both to answer it. We'll start by picking on poor Catherine. Catherine, and of course we are now officially in the spoiler zone.
Good. I was going to remind you.
Catherine, what do you think happens to OJ, Angel, and Emerald after this film cuts to credits?
Yeah. Well, I think OJ keeps training horses, and I think Angel and Emerald get everything that they wanted and do the talk show circuit with the Oprah shot, and it all goes terribly wrong, and OJ has to save them.
Okay.
Oh,
all right.
Wow.
And when you say terribly wrong, how do you mean that? Could you elaborate a bit more?
Well, they could be they could be mauled by a circus animal, or something happens by creating the spectacle that it goes terribly awry, and things go off the rails and don't happen as they had planned.
Celebrity, the wealth and celebrity and all that is supposedly good about that either come and aren't good, or don't really come, or a mix of both. And
Yeah.
the sensible one, perhaps OJ, is the one who, all right, come back to the farm or whatever. Okay, Jim.
Yeah.
What? How did you answer that question? What do you think happens?
Well, I think for me, the movie really comes together as the brother and sister sort of get back on the same page. We get in terms of their relationship, which I would argue is sort of more important than a lot of other factors in this, is that they start working together, and then they're sort of what they're attempting actually happens and they sort of start.
Okay,
I mean, they're
be
a little bit
specific.
estranged.
Yeah.
So
credits cut.
I think their relationship gets stronger because they've been sort of reunited a little bit. Angel might be one of those guys that sort of goes on the lecture circuit, but that's its own whole kettle of fish there. There's some dangers there. But I think they have a steady income, which is the main thing. I think they will get a steady income from this. Maybe not $100,000, but they will have saved the farm, I think.
All right.
The FBI shuts them down.
Or the what?
The FBI shuts them down. Or
well,
CIA.
these things hardly work out.
Whoever's in charge of UFOs.
Yeah, these things hardly work out. It's never simple, especially in a Jordan Peele universe.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I think that's interesting. I myself, I could see it playing out both ways. Don't really have an opinion. I was more kind of curious how you guys would fall, because I think that, so correct me if I'm wrong. Jim, it sounds like you got a bit more of a positive, hey, this is going to be a positive thing for them. Whereas Catherine thinks more, yeah, what we have seen up to this point in the film, and it will just continue.
Well,
In a
you
way,
could
like
say,
the
yeah, I
social
mean, you could say,
commentary.
oh, they live happily ever after. But if there's going to be a sequel, then they can't live happily ever after. That's
Well,
not.
and that wasn't quite the reason I was. It wasn't so much sequel I was looking for, is more every film, no matter where it cuts, we're kind of led to believe, and I think Peele actually leaves it on a bit of an ambiguous note. Not quite Inception, but there's some momentum in a direction, but it isn't necessarily he doesn't necessarily say yes for sure that X or Y will happen. But we all have kind of an idea, and but it isn't the same idea. I guess if I was really forced to, I would say, and I'm thinking about what both you guys have said, I don't think Keke Emerald is suddenly going to become responsible. This is suddenly become, no, she she did not. This was not her character growth story. And I think that's maybe not where Jordan Peele was going. I think, yeah, if they decide, the best we can hope for is they get a big fat check. The farm is saved. So, yeah, there's somewhere for her to go again. I do think OJ will do, it's like, oh, yeah, I know exactly where I'm spending this money. But I think if they try to turn it into an income, they'll become maybe not their 15 minutes of fame, but maybe Jupe, brought out to be exploited, to be grinded, ground, to be exploited in whatever way Hollywood kind of does with people that they were very interested in at one time, and less until there's, oh wait, can't we trot those weirdos out again? Does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean it's tricky. Stephen King, when he does horror, he often combines the fantastical and the mundane, and you're sort of left wondering, how and this is part of the question that I had for you guys, how the police report is going to, be written at the end of the story. Well, I shot 9 silver bullets into the Wolfman or whatever, but so in this case, I think it's kind of funny is that at no, and this is the question I was talking about, at no time or is it even thought of as an opportunity to call the authorities. They're in it for them by themselves. So we haven't even reached the first stage. Maybe the press had seen the climax there, but it's still pretty hush hush, right? We don't know how it's going to develop. So that sort of fits in there. But I thought it was interesting. I wonder if this is because it's made by an African American filmmaker. They don't even discuss calling the police, NASA, any government organizations. They're effectively in it on their own, and they sort of treat it like that. That it's up to us to deal with that. So I thought that was kind of an interesting thing. If you look at something like Jaws, which this movie is compared to, one of the 3 guys in the boat is the sheriff of the town. I mean, there's a direct connection. And in a lot of movies, that's the immediate go-to is like, we got to call the cops on this. But Stranger Things, you have Sheriff Jim, But in this case, these guys are on their own. And it's funny you mentioned the word gulch, which I wish came up more. But yeah, they are remote. Like they're in every way they're sort of remote. And so I thought that was a really interesting aspect, not even considered. There's not even, I don't think there's a credited character that's law enforcement, but so
No.
yeah, this is still, this story hasn't hit the public airwaves of that universe yet. So
Yeah.
that's kind of,
but it's
kind of
about to.
Yes, yeah,
And it is
yeah.
their stated purpose to get the impossible shot, the Oprah shot, to bring it to the public in a way that benefits them. To,
Yes.
unlike that jockey, to get that credit and any
Yes.
rewards, any financial or material rewards that they can get out of it. I think it's exactly why in this horror movie the cops aren't called. They're black people.
Yeah.
Why would we? How quickly do we want our things taken from us, and then maybe shot for the?
Exactly. There's the trust thing, and then there's they're on a different kind of mission. It's not strictly survival. It's just getting the shot, really.
Yeah.
But I did think it was kind of interesting and something you don't often see.
Yeah. Catharine, there was a great, and there is a link in the description. Newbie, that's not his. Here, let me see if I can't find the guy's name. It's in the description of the video. Here we are. Okay, Richard Newby did this great Hollywood Reporter piece where he really, I think it's one of the best breakdowns of the themes of the flick, and I recommend anybody read it. But what do you think, Catharine, is the main? Yeah, what would you say is the main theme of the piece?
It's kind of weird because the warning is don't look at it, right? Like if you don't look at it, it won't get you. But their whole purpose becomes looking at it, capturing it, sharing the spectacle. So you have that part of the story, and then you have the other section of the story with the sitcom gone bad that shows, what happens when the cautionary tale of what happens when you present a spectacle to people and you try to create something that might be considered unnatural, right? And then it can all go terribly wrong. Someone's face gets eaten off. And that's what happens when you present things to be consumed. So it's an interesting dichotomy. They juxtapose that with the way to conquer it is to not look at it, and the way we're going to conquer this situation is by looking straight at it and capturing it, right? Getting it on film. So,
Jim, what do you think the main?
And I think it's largely about, and this may be a little bit, I may be reading a bit too much into this, a little bit about consumption, I think, is the way that sort of humanity treats other species is highlighted, specifically with it all sort of rests on the Stephen Yeun character, where he has an experience with the chimp at the start, and then he sort of, what he gains from that, he tries to apply to his relationship with the UFO, and we all know how it turned out, poorly. But when you look at, a lot of times when there's an alien presence in a movie, it's actually just a reflection of humanity, right? It's sort of a version of humanity at its worst. And so this thing's just a gigantic mouth. It's consuming everything. And I think there's...
but it looks like a camera sensor.
Oh. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I didn't associate that initially with that, but I was just thinking because the maw, that kind of
Yeah.
just sucking up everything,
Yeah.
is not unlike what we do as a species. And if you ever, like, right from the start, you're aware of how kind of uh, how not proud of humanity science fiction is sometimes. It's just, whether it's Agent Smith talking about what humans are and what they do, and in the Matrix, it's that kind of thing. So I suspect there's an element. I mean, there's so many themes in here. I would say consumption, and our relationship with the earth, is I mean, a little bit out there, and I wish I could sort of articulate this a little better, but I think it is about looking at something that just consumes everything. Yeah. Also, cautionary tale, of course.
What about like, and yeah, I get there are like so many black writers feel that it's like, well, there you got tokenism, there you got black people uncredited or ignored, especially in a hierarchical and nepotistic business like film. You have like why do you think he, and it's not his name is Otis, but why do you think the character's called OJ?
Yeah, it's a little bit like calling a boy Sue, right? From the Johnny Cash song. I think it's a challenge.
Yeah.
It's yeah, a
Well,
little bit
can't it just
off-putting.
be like a metaphor again? Like you think about OJ's ride, OJ's last ride. Of course, he never looked up.
Yeah.
Like I when we think of consumption, it's literally eating people. People who are there to watch a spectacle, and then they're eaten by the spectacle. Just as, let's say, Gordy the chimp is the spectacle to be watched. Look, it's a chimp, and look, it's an Asian kid with a white family. And all these little, you still have the nuclear family in the sitcom, and it's the chimp and the little Asian kid, the adoptee, who are basically the joke setter uppers for our consumption. Then, of course, Gordy has enough one day. One of those celebratory balloons pops, and Gordy's like, enough of this bullshit.
He didn't like the script.
Well, but I think about that, and a lot of my opinion has been informed by newbies writing. It's like kind of, oh yeah, that makes sense. Because I got to admit, and maybe this is just because I'm a white male from Canada, that I'm going, oh, there's race stuff going on here. Anyway, let's move on to the stuff I understand. Yeah. And I thought, and I still think that's part of the theme, is the way, like, films are almost a perfect metaphor for what's wrong in modern capitalism. It's a business of bullies, and I'm quoting a stunt coordinator who told me that once in the first big film I worked on. It's like, it's a business of bullies. You just keep that in mind. But it is. It's an incredible hierarchy. The lower you are, the more you get shit on, the less you're remembered. The way the commercial played out didn't really ring true to my experience, but I kind of get why Peele did that, because it's not like the Animal Wrangler is a respected member of the crew. They're one-offs. They come in, they do their thing. No one thanks them, and yeah, there's, just as you find very few Indigenous crew members in Canada, it's the same thing. there's not a lot of black African American or black crew members or indigenous crew members or really crew members that aren't white down in the United States. So, you know what, that he kind of pushes the envelope and how it works makes sense. But I also thought it's like, wow, this is also a great metaphor for the way we anthropomorphize animals. Like, you look at even poor Jupe, who I think is one of the most tragic figures of the film. He has been consumed by this industry, and once he was no longer cute, it's like out in some gulch, you know, just basically doing what he can to make what little income he can off of that leftover celebrity. But even that poor bugger survives the chimp massacre and maybe gets the wrong idea from it. And he's thinking, you know what? We'll sacrifice these horses, you know. Well, and even does he even think of it as a sacrifice? He's like, well, they go up, you know, who knows what happens. But there he is watching it and trying to, he's also much like OJ and Emerald and Angel. It's like, hey, how can I make money off of this? How can I, you know, how can I create a spectacle? I'll be a part of it. I'll be what draws them in, but here's the thing they can watch, because he also anthropomorphizes the outer space being. It's only OJ who goes, that's a predator. And this is the way predators work. Like he is the only one to sort of see the alien as, I think we have learned about chimps. It's like they are wild animals. They're not meant to be they're not little people, or we should realize that. Like, I mean, that's what they do.
That's
they
the comment about Siegfried and Roy, right? Just like the off comment about Siegfried and Roy, just to drive it home. That, you know, don't mess around.
It was a good comment too, because it was a little quiet. You really had to sort of. I was like, is that what he said?
Yeah. No, just to put the pin in it. And then there was, just as you were saying, so there's this idea of spectacle and this critique of it, but then also the concept of gaze, right? Like the male gaze or the white gaze, who's looking at what and what's being presented for who counts as audience members and who don't. And all of everything behind that concept.
Well,
but you know, not the thing I really loved about this movie. I was thinking about it compared to, Don't Look Up, and how Don't Look Up, it just like hammers you over the head with, you know, like, this is what's happening. This is our critique of it. And it's just like, okay, whatever. And this is so much more. It's the message is there, but it's subtle and it's nuanced and it's wrapped in this beautiful film with
scary
this
scary story.
Exactly. Yeah. So it really makes you think about it. It's not like hammer you over the head with and Hollywood is bad because we exploit chimpanzees, right? It's like, no, it's much more nuanced than that, but still presenting it to you.
No, that's a great point. Oh, go ahead, Jim.
I mean, whether or not there's one main theme or not, there's so much going on here. Just a quick aside, I just did look it up, and it's funny that the title of that 1878 short is Horse in Motion. They can't even give the guy credit in the title. You know, it's just it's a horse, you know, in brackets with some rider in motion. But the other thing I was going to say too, and I think an important part of the movie, even though it was sort of awkwardly introduced, was the paparazzi guy, the TMZ, who they credit as the TMZ, the motorcycle rider who comes in and is all obnoxious, and he's got the reflective helmet. and he tries to come in. And the other interesting thing is,
and he seems shocked that nobody wants. How could you not want your fame?
It gets deeper though.
Yeah.
Is that his bike basically hits a force field. He gets thrown, and at least one arm is sort of broken. You can tell there's blood, and he's not screaming for OJ to help him. He's saying, "Get my camera! Get my camera! Where's my camera?" And he's begging OJ at the very end, not for his life, but to not waste the shot.
Yeah.
So I think I think in relation with that consumption theme, maybe it's just that sort of visual consumption, that we are all content eaters. We're all devourers of content, and he's one of the suppliers. But that's his main thing, is not save my life, oh God, save my life. It's not until he's digested by the UFO that he realizes, oh,
and
crap.
any of his hard bits are spat out.
Yes, yeah. But he says, oh, the camera, the camera, the camera.
Yeah.
That's his one concern, whether he's talking to Emerald or later with OJ when he's lying prone on the desert floor, is that, oh my God, the camera, please get the shot, man. Yeah. And
Well, what?
But then the other thing about it is it's not one-sided, right? So you have this cautionary tale about spectacle, and then the other part of it is the brother and sister seeing each other, right? So it's like being able to see someone. I see you. I understand you, right? And so that's a whole nother layer to it. That's goes even deeper.
Well, and it's the contrast between that visual. Well, I consumed this picture, and maybe I interacted with it, but on the thinnest of levels. I liked it, or I paid for whatever. It attracted my eyeballs. Versus what you're talking about, Catherine. Yeah, you're absolutely, is that human connection. Like, one of the things that I enjoyed so much about this film was how Angel is brought into it in a real, like, we get to kind of learn who Angel is to a degree. Who in a lot of other horror films, it's like, you're dying early. Like, you just, he's dead. The one white man with a prominent role, played by that Canadian,
Michael Wincott. Yeah.
It is interesting that he gets some of the best lines.
Oh, yeah.
Truly committed to his craft, but he, much like the TMZ guy, wants to get the shot, but he seems to have some sort of weird Zen sort of, well, I know I have to sacrifice myself for that shot. Cause is he the way he is? Is he drawn that way as a representation of? Is he drawn that way as a representation of the dominant culture, of white, let's say, whiteness?
The Antler character, the cinematographer.
What do you think? Like, he is the one white guy who's brought in.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, because he has the expertise and the equipment, the capital, let's say, if we want to.
Yeah. Because they think he's the one guy that can make the shot, right? Yeah. And then it ends up he's not. Emerald is the one who gets the shot. In
an old, like a super old-timey, like a visual reference to a previous era and the beginning of the movie.
I sort of think that in a post-movie sense, that would have been spat out, the sort of the hand crank camera. So I sort of wonder if there'd be other evidence that would be able to be salvaged there. You saw a couple canisters of film roll past Angel as he's rolling down the hill. So I maybe something else exists besides the one shot, but that one shot was the alien unfurled at its grandest as well. So that's the other thing too. But I think aliens are in Rob's house.
Yeah,
It's
my
electric popping off.
there we
But
go.
yeah, whether or
Uh,
not he's representative is interesting. He's such a different character. Like he wears sort of these like robes, but not a cape or something. And he if I think he's driving a Lada or like some not quite Citroen, but one of those sort of like a car like a European car that kind of one of those guys would have. They're all sitting around the dinner table drinking. He's got a glass of water. They have beers. Like he's this sort of, as you mentioned, Zen. He's a sort of Zen character.
yeah, he's not
Fantastic character.
It is, and not presented as a caricature either.
No.
It's not like, and I think that goes to the meaning of the piece. And I want to start. Okay, we do have a couple of folks in the chat, which also means it's a shameless opportunity to beg everyone for a like, a subscribe, and a ringy dingy of that bell. But let's take a look. We've got, of course, Richard L. in the chat, which means Katie Fowler is somewhere nearby. They're listening in. Richard said, Batgirl reels to be stored in the Batcave for now. I think it's actually pretty good. Cody from the Brockup side, a friend of the show, a YouTuber in his own right, and more successful than Jim and I are. So a great YouTuber in his own right. Anyway, he said, smart ass
It's
goes,
the hair.
nope,
It's the hair.
more like yep. But he does. Notwithstanding the saddest part of the film being the use of Fry's Electronics, since his neighborhood Fry's Electronics recently closed, he talks about he thinks it's the favorite interpretation of aliens he's seen in years, and I couldn't agree more. And I think it actually, like so many tropes, are upset in this film, and I think how aliens are portrayed in this film is the first thing, because it looks like a saucer. You think he's playing with the Area 51 stuff, and it's like it's an animal, much like Gordy, much like the horses they keep feeding to.
Yeah.
What did you guys think of the animal, of the alien?
Well, I was sort of wondering, I would normally say, oh, what a unique presentation. I'm not sure that's angle has been covered before, where the ship, or what you think is the ship itself, is the actual creature. I think there's a few red herrings, the Jupe kids dressed like, Close Encounters type aliens walking around. So I think we're sort of predisposed to think that there's things in the ship, that this is merely a vessel. But that's obviously the hook, or one of the twists is that once Jupe said, yeah, in the mouth, when he's describing it, it's like 2 school buses long. I thought, uh-oh, that's not normal.
I remember that, but I didn't pick up that play.
Yeah, it was just one of those things that I thought, oh, yikes. Yeah, what's going on here? Which is brilliant. It's simple and brilliant. But yeah, I think that's my thing, is that I'm maybe somebody has done this before. I'm not aware of it, though. Yeah. How about you, Catherine?
No, it's usually the alien. It's the ship all the time.
Yeah.
Right.
And if it is a beast of some sort, it's somehow gotten on a human ship, or it's been dropped by a ship.
Yeah.
No, and always anthropomorphized, right?
Yeah.
Like that's, yeah. So it's always aliens. They're always creatures like us.
Yeah.
Sometimes,
except for the thing,
it's no longer as bad as Star Trek days, right? Where all of the aliens, all aliens
forehead
are bipeds
or nose thing.
Exactly.
Or just
some of them have different ears.
Yeah,
but,
I'm green. I'm a I'm a star-bellied sneetch.
What did you? I want to come back to something Catharine said, because this hooks into, and this will be my little. I don't, not a spoiler, but a tease for what I want to talk about. What I'm going to talk about in Prey. In my little thing. One of the things that blew my mind about this film, I didn't even understand it for about good 20 minutes. And this relates to point of view. Whenever we see indigenous, the indigenous First Nations, in almost every movie, it is post-colonial conquering. And this movie is set, yes, it's 1719. This is set in the western United States, probably in the Colorado area. I don't think it's as far north as Wyoming, from what I understand of Comanche settlement as they split from the eastern Shoshone peoples and moved south. Yes, I've done some research.
Is there a crawl like Star Wars at the very start?
No, I had to do some research. But one of the things I was like, it was bugging me as much as I was enjoying it. And then all of a sudden it dawned on me. We're seeing indigenous people undefeated. Mm-hmm. That they are, this is before literally the white man as consumed everything, destroyed everything, and that at best you see a narrative of, oh, look at the noble First Nations person surviving, or a victim, or this is right at that cusp, so it acknowledges what may be to come, but that you see them in a different light because you're not seeing it through. Every other film is actually through the white man. It's not a white man's gaze, but a white man's point of view. Mm. It is, the story is told as a white man going out to these places, meeting these people, or even I think when we saw Blood Quantum, that is a distinct indigenous point of view, but it's post-colonial. And so it has, whereas this, it's like not, and it's energizing. And it's just so energizing. Like there's also a hint of what is to come, but it is something I have not seen. And I think that's part of what Jordan Peele is playing with, is this idea of point of view, and really kind of not just flipping it, but changing it, like that you could miss. I don't know. I'm kind of babbling here, but
point of view from
the filmmaker, the filmmaker's point of view, the camera point of view, the story point of view. I think the nope gag, is almost, it's a sitcom, or not a sitcom. It's a stand-up comedy bit, here in horror films, this is what white people do. Let's look up, let's investigate, let's call the police, let's stir it up. Whereas the African-American, it's Eddie Murphy did a bit, in the 80s going, get out. All right, honey, we're going. Let's go.
Yeah.
Nope. Nope. I'm not, now mind you, he doesn't totally do that, but I think that is part of the whole idea, is he's not looking in the camera. He is not, he really is sort of saying nope to all the standard gags that you see in horror films. And that's a change in horror film point of view. There is no Like even Jupe, he dies and it sucks.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
I didn't celebrate anyone's death. I didn't. Maybe the TMZ guy. Like I mean, you know, this is an asshole. But unlike so many other horror films, are about. Okay, here is the normal order of things. Something has been violated. We will now punish people until the normal order of things is reestablished. You know, it's why the slut dies. It's why, you know, like certain players die and others survive. They're rewarded for their moral virtue. He's not doing that here. You know, he certainly does. I think he rewards brains.
Yeah.
But yeah, Keke's character would be the one who screws something up later that puts them in peril. She doesn't do that. You know, when the stress is on, these people behave in solidarity with each other.
Yeah.
You know, like
that's
solidarity is maybe too strong, too political a word, but they don't fall apart or one goes off, you know, no, I'm going to screw the others. I mean, even the weirdo white guy isn't there. And this is how we'll now steal from them all. He, you know,
and that's why when you initially asked what becomes of these characters afterwards, I would think that, you know, they'll in movie storytelling form, yeah, there'll be struggles, but I think this is her becoming competent. You know, that shot of her on the motorcycle and her sort of getting her act together and having her Chief Brody moment. That smile, you son of a bitch. You know, that was again, you know,
that's a great point.
You know, like, and he was the weakling on board. He couldn't swim. He was afraid of the water. And then this is her sort of maybe growing up a little. But you know, as to other point of view, yeah, that's kind of interesting. The nope I heard was a couple things. Was what the audience is supposed to say, although there was no citation for that. Like the audience is supposed to say, nope, not in this. Of course, the OJ character says it twice. I was looking for the comedy rule of three, but seeing the movie a second time, other characters sort of drop it really casually.
Yeah.
But he does it twice in an obvious, like, nope, not going in there, or nope, not leaving my truck. And there might have been another time, but I didn't notice myself. Interestingly, as well, they were going to be killing off the Angel character, apparently, is what I read, until Brandon talked to the young actor talked to Jordan Peele and said,
really?
And gave him some sort of like, okay, this is why I think he should live, and he does it with smarts. Like he realizes he's wrapped up in that chain link fence,
which was awesome.
The creature doesn't like strings of things, like, you know,
well, especially kind of stuff that it gets caught in the teeth.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
So like some floss, you just like, God damn it, I'm.
So anyway, there's a couple of things there, but yeah, kind of a unique, you know, regardless of how we, you know, what conclusions we come to tonight. I think it's for horror, it's a pretty unique thing. So Rob and I saw it on the Friday, and then I took my wife, my daughter, my son, and his girlfriend out on the Monday to see it, because we all had the night free, and I told them, you guys have to see this movie. So we all went out, caught the 10 o'clock one at Grant Park. Oh, and this is interesting. There's a big storm in the movie, right? So we come out of the theater and it's just coming down. There's a gigantic thunderstorm. So I ran out to the car and pretended I was looking up at the clouds, which none of the family appreciated. They all noticed it, but none of them appreciated my
nobody got the gag. Aww.
Commitment to the bit. But and I'm the one who had to go through the water to get the car anyway. But pretty unique movie, I think, in any case, and just a fantastic watch, and a lot going on. Like not just one theme, and it's been accused of having too many themes. But Yeah, I'd rather have more than less, I guess.
Yeah, you know what? I think it's so well layered. Yeah, I'm with you,
Yeah.
Catherine, but you run with too many.
Yeah.
Like what? What does that even mean? That's ridiculous.
I, you know what I do? I think there are some films that are like, wow, you're trying to enter 18 different things here. Could you just stick to? It shows his skill that he's like,
Yeah.
oh,
Yeah.
it's gonna be 18 different layers of things. There's
Exactly.
in the comments, Cody says, this is a great comment. It was genius to not only combine the alien with the ship, but also to have it resemble a weather balloon, which many people have denied UFO sightings as weather balloons. Absolutely. But it's also it's a balloon that gets killed by a balloon, taken out by a balloon, but also balloons are balloons, inflated things. We see a lot of them in this movie. Like it's a motif, a visual motif.
Yeah.
You know, whether it be the
hot air.
hot air.
Mhm.
But I'm thinking about the balloons, the noise, the balloon, or the crack. Oh no, it was the mirrored eye, the mirror ball that they're using for visual effects that sets the horse off and it kicks.
Oh yeah.
But the balloons that set the poor chimp off.
Yeah.
You know, loud noises,
Yeah.
because animals love loud noises. You know, so there's and it is like, I mean, it is a balloon. You know, it seems to be a kind of balloon, especially later when it really puffs itself up and then it gets kind of shredded, and you know, so
Which was an amazing unfurling of the beast, I think.
yeah,
Mhm.
the big
that last
reveal.
Yeah.
Yeah. What did you think? And I think we see this in The Beast. Oh, and we want to say a quick shout out to Dragon Movie Guy, who's in the chat as we speak.
Right.
Exactly. Catherine gets it. What did you guys think about? We had the mirrored helmet, but we also have the mirror ball that kind of freaks out the horse.
Mhm.
The mirrored helmet and that weird kind of distorted reflection it does. You know, and again, you know what? With an eye, I can see you, but you don't get to see me. You only get to see this. It's like a perfect metaphor for social media and even celebrity news. A distorted view of these people and a distorted view of us. It distorts us. Would you?
Reflected back. Yeah.
Yeah.
You're not getting any purchase on who's in there.
Mm-hmm.
All you see is the sort of the stuff around him, right?
Well, and the fun house of you. Like you're
Yes,
not
yeah.
even,
Yeah.
you know, like it. What was there anything else like that going on that you guys saw? That distortion.
Yeah.
I'm sure
Well-
that there was that if I watched it again, I would catch, right? Because
Maybe
there was also the record player, right? So that came in and out of the story.
yeah. Yeah,
And-
these
and,
weird
you know,
little visual metaphors, eh?
Yeah.
And the sunglasses at night, the wonderful use of sunglasses at night,
Yes.
slowing
Exactly.
down,
Yes.
and you know,
Yes.
just kind of like sound melting, basically.
Mhm.
Yeah, there's that. Yeah, I mean, there's the one of the interesting things is that the cameras that they actually bought or had already didn't seem to work all that well. You know, whether it was the praying mantis in front of it, you know, or what have you. It just ultimately the stuff that they wanted to rely on, they had to call in the bigger guns eventually. But
I went camping last weekend. And of course, you know, there's that part where the camera gets blocked out by that monstrous bug.
yeah,
So I'm backing out with my Winnipeg car, co-op car. Of course, they're all modern. They all got backup cameras. And what do? I turn the thing on, I put it in reverse, and I almost jump out of my seat because there's this fucking, pardon my poor language, this monstrous bug
Oh,
looking like taking up like a full side of the screen. Of
jeez.
course, I go and find the camera. It's like a pinprick of a camera, so the thing is tiny, but it's that good that it just
Yeah.
expands it, and all I could think is, oh, nope, nope,
Yeah.
nope.
That's funny.
Do you guys think there's also whether it be the jockey who was almost disposable before he even got on the horse? Because we do have, if you look it all up, we got the name of the horse, all of the horses used in these things.
Mm.
Never the name of the operator, but the name of the horse.
They get their own title cards.
They get their the especially Jupe. Broe Deschanel, I don't know, a good 30% of the time I really disagree with her. There's that said, she did a great piece on it. Celebrity is actually abuse. I will, you know what, I'll look it up and I'll pin it to a comment or put it in the description. I'm wondering, you think about how child actors are, especially like Kiwan, it did an amazing performance as what's her name's husband in that movie that I can't
Everything,
remember.
everywhere,
Thank
all
you.
at once.
Was Short Round. He was Dada Wong in The Goonies. Like, I mean, of course, spat out, did end up, because he, got a few roles here and there, but became a stunt choreographer and stunt coordinator, which is, and you can kind of see those skills in that movie. And you got to think, it's like, have we been screwed out of a wonderful, a number of wonderful Yeah, we have.
Yeah.
We're so terribly racist. We're screwing ourselves.
He was, what would he be up for? Long Duck Dong in 16 Candles, or,
Getty Watanabe, who's,
yeah.
a fair chunk of his career relegated to playing the funny, the outsider, the other.
Yeah. But it's interesting you said that about child actors, because one of the other things I thought of that this twigged with me when I was reading some of the reviews about it was because Sarah Polley has that new book, right? Like Run
Yes.
Towards the Danger, and talks about, and she does she did an episode on Canada Land talking to Jesse Brown about can you even have child actors responsibly, right? Like is it even possible to have child actors without them being exploited? And she basically thought, no, probably not, and talks about her experiences and basically being put in danger for the sake of the movie, for the sake of the spectacle, or for the sake of the television show, right? So it's the same. It's the same idea of you sacrifice these humans. They either get sucked up into the alien, or you chew them up and spit them out. Why? For Hollywood, for the show, for the spectacle.
Yeah.
And so that's the other, it's such, the theme is everywhere if you look for it, because it's so prevalent.
Yeah. I think, and again, props to and why what a gutsy choice to kill Jupe, to not turn him in part of the team, right?
Yeah.
Notwithstanding the fact that he was basically, I'll buy your horse. You know what? It's almost a weird sort of one extra step from him sacrificing the horse and literally feeding them to the other horses. That's why he had to sell them.
But also also his weird little room, right? where he's profiting over this horrific tragedy.
Yeah.
And he's monetizing it. It's really gross.
What?
Yeah, his character could have been played as a. It's interesting how they played him as kind of a nice, kind of a slick guy, but still kind of a nice guy. And they could have gone the other way. They could have had a real bully, like a hard bitten kind of cynical person, and they didn't play him like that, which is kind of interesting.
Yeah, we're like, even the TMZ guy, we feel a little bad for. We're kind of, fucking cameraman, take the help.
Yeah.
But Jupe is, you're absolutely right. Yeah, he's, even while he's regaling everyone, oh, you got to see with Chris Kattan.
That was a great monologue.
The great monologue about Chris Kattan, that literally making fun of, much like Joe Theismann's injury is every now and then brought up for comedy purposes. You know what, whether it be injury or, more horrible things. It was a great moment, but I think, and there's this bit of peace we get, and there's very few. It's mostly a film about ratcheting up tension, right? But there's a bit of peace we get, and a little bit of that bit of human kindness as his wife is, rubbing his hand as he's like stuck reminiscing. He has never recovered from that childhood trauma. He really hasn't. He is like in a moment, and he's like, oh yeah, okay, we got to get to work. Like he's doing what he can, given that he was a child star and only has, we think about how much, I don't believe I did, but that could be just memory serving my psychology now. But there is certainly a lot of Schadenfreude. You always heard when Gary Coleman behaved badly. It became a little bit of the conversation, and it's like, holy shit, how cruel are we that we want to know that he behaved badly? Like, it's like he was a child actor, abused as a child actor, and then fell on hard times because, child actor. And then people still demanding things of the child actor, and him every now and then reacting, as a metaphor for Gordy, reacting negatively. And then people still being upset about that. How does Gordy end? Gordy does not end well. Does not work out well for the chimp either. Even though the chimp's doing what a chimp's going to do, especially as they mature, right?
Well, and there's an element of PTSD that I think that some of the characters have here that isn't really, well, specifically Jupe, that's not acknowledged as you're talking about here, but also the way he tries to play it off. And I think one of the interesting parts of this also is just, once again, with consumption, this movie is on fire with pop culture references, whether it's the Scorpion King or the SNL skit in the monologue, and also the Gordy thing. You have to think is downplayed because SNL would never, even as cruel as they would never make fun of the Vic Morrow helicopter Twilight Zone crash. Now, we're led to believe that nobody actually, I don't think, dies in the Gordy incident, but it was kind of hushed up. But they're still making fun of it. And he's regaling them with a story and the way he says it. And then Gordy, Kattan, just nails it, is what the Jupe character says.
Yeah.
And he's having fun telling the story, which to me suggests that he's not, as you're saying, this is still active. What is the saying is that the past isn't dead, it's not even past. It's sort of like an element of that, I think.
When do we get the full picture? Is in that middle point where all of a sudden we cut to it and we get even the fist bump and everything, and there he is, and then all of a sudden it's a cut to him and his wife soothing him in just a like, that moment got me, because we really are seeing a grown man just reliving this horror that he had to witness, that he had no control over, that he survived. And it's very human then to try and explain how you survived when, Jesus Christ, is just dumb luck. Gordy had calmed down and went, oh, this is what I do with this, you know.
Yeah.
Although I think it was interesting, there was a directorial choice in this that, okay, the minority didn't get it that time.
Yeah.
But even, I want to, again, back to the tropes he does not bite on. Like, I really, when I saw the advertisements and you see the woman with the horrifically scarred face. And as she rises and the veil comes off, revealed. I was like, I hate it when films, Rob Zombie's fucking terrible for this. Why does anyone watch Rob Zombie's films? But that grotesquerie to be a grotesque, you know, and to make that entertainment. And this is not to deny someone the ability to earn a living, but it is. It's kind of speaks to the whole theme of it. And he doesn't. And then he narratively has a kind moment that this child actor, you know, turned lonely gulch entrepreneur feeding horses to aliens and charging $50,000 to weirdos to sleep in his weird ass. Hey, I usually charge
room
for
of
this.
memories, yeah.
Room of weird memories. He's my first crush, you know, because the pretty girl ain't pretty anymore, and that just hits. Like it's why, yeah, Jupe is a tragic character. He's, you know, and to draw a character that way, to kind of, so that you really feel that, you know, I just, God damn, what a great bit of, and it goes to the meaning of the film.
Well, then what Catharine said about the ultimate fate of the characters before. So here we have Jupe trying to cash in on the aliens. Yeah, so maybe your take, everything goes horribly wrong. Maybe that's closer to it. You know, it didn't work out so well for him, and that maybe speaks to anybody else that tries to take this on. You know, it's all speculation, of course, but yeah. They even made a Mad magazine cover of the Gordy incident. So that's
yeah, he's really, there's just a couple of points he really wants to make sure we get. Well, yeah, how horror, I liken it to fail videos, which I do not understand why people like watching. You know, every now and then and this is the tough one. You engage in social media, every now and then you're going to see one of these horror shows, right? These, you know, the train wreck, you just can't, you know, but it's something I try to scroll past quickly. Cause I'm like, how do you, that person got hurt. You can, it's like, that's not, oh, my elbow.
Yeah.
It's not even the cat going, you know, like putting a scratch on the human. That's like, that's a head injury. That's is that if it's not a broken neck, that may be permanent back pain. Like it's, what the fuck?
Yeah.
And yes, you know what? A lot of them are young men doing stupid things. It's what young men do. You know, probably alcohol or drugs involved, but a lot, it's just, you know, doing things that they think are safe, and that if you were there, you might think is safe or reasonably safe too. Sorry, Jim. Yeah.
I was just going to say that cheese racing downhill contest in England that they do every year is super violent, but you know, it's all violence on themselves. The falls and stuff. My capacity to watch those is sort of less and less every year.
Yeah.
Are you saying you still watch it?
No. Just there's this. Seth Meyers always shows this clip of a guy trying to jump into a pool, and the pool's actually frozen over with super clear ice, and the guy just lands on his ass, and
Yeah.
if he's not concussed, it's going to be whiplash or something, and it's just and they throw it at you as sort of a joke, and it always makes my wife and I kind of cringe. Like you're not quick enough to pull away from it, and it just every time it's like, oh boy, I can't imagine. But in any case, so.
Just want to comment. We got a few. First of all, we got another one, a friend of the channel, a regular contributor to the chat, Matthew David Bowen from Perth, Australia. So good to see you here, man.
How you going?
He's everybody's looking for Stilton. Here's an interesting moment. I don't actually. Here, let me pull that off. So if we look in the chat, DMG says, anyone else think Antlers was doing a David Carradine impersonation? Where's doing it?
That's actually
it worked for me, but yeah.
That's a good point.
Matthew says, I'm not sure there was any real Bible. I didn't feel like again, he subverts these usual horror expectations. I didn't feel an overt biblical kind of thing going on here. What did you think, Catherine?
I never thought about that.
I'm just looking up right now.
There's nothing that like it doesn't hammer you.
Yeah.
With it.
Maybe worth some thought. I mean, you do have an angel, but I'm not sure if that's like that name has meaning like maybe OJ. But when you got OJ, you got Emerald. I'm sure if we thought about it a bit more. So maybe here's something that I will look up afterwards, though. Matthew says, and there's an idea about horses being used for sacrifices, according to Canadian literary critic Northrop Frye. I think that's worth looking into.
I should just mention here, and I recalled this just as you were mentioning Bible. There is a quote that opens up the movie. It's from Nahum 3, not one of the more popular books, 3-6. I will cast abominable filth upon you, make you vile, and make you a spectacle.
Right.
So there we go.
A little bit. Matt says, could the idea of people wanting to make money or fame based on alien visitations, being that intermediary, let's say, that pontifex, that bridge to the divine, a commentary on the church trying to make money off visitors from heaven. You know what? I think you could use it as a conversation starter, but I don't think that's an intent here. Although, wait, you know what? Actually, Jupe says you will be changed. He's got a bit of that sort of almost a hint of that revival tent preacher thing going on. Come and be changed, and right down to the family. It's a whole family operation and everything. So yeah, actually, okay. Now, one of the great things about a great movie, that it is open to these interpretations. Listen, I think it is. We've got to start thinking about wrapping it up here. And that means, Jim, that I think it's time to talk about what are we looking at next week? Perhaps with the same people that are in front of us right now.
We are looking at the newly released Perea next week. So that's what's coming up.
Yeah,
this should be a good one. It looks, yeah. I haven't seen it yet, but I'm hoping maybe tomorrow. But looking forward to this one.
Here's my incredibly short take on it. Again, I will post a thing. I enjoyed it. I think it's a great streaming movie. I think
Yeah.
it does some things that are pretty exciting. At the same time, it suffers what so many sequels, and I know it's a prequel, but it's a sequel. All prequels are really sequels. They're seen after that original movie kind of sets the stage, right? It suffers what so many others do. And so is it a great movie? No, but it's a really good streaming movie. And like I said, it does, there's a couple of interesting things that just kind of, go, I didn't, wow, I think this is the first time I've seen that an indigenous portrayal like that, not post-colonial.
Can you imagine watching this as a surprise, not knowing it's a Predator movie, going into it, and just sort of saying, "Oh, it's a movie about early First Nations peoples"?
Yeah.
I think that would be an amazing. That's part of the fun of when you're a kid and you're watching late night movies.
Yeah.
If you stumble across Sleuth or something, it's like, wait a sec, there's only two people in this: Michael Caine and Laurence Olivier. What's going on? So not knowing that going in, that would have been really fun.
I'm gonna put a pin on that. Wow, now you kind of wrapped it all up, but that would have been a great question to start with next week. But
well, let's assume that it'll be different crowds, so we can still entertain the notion. Perhaps.
Yeah. Sure.
Disregard.
Okay. All right. Let's get back to this flick, and yeah, guys. Does Jordan Peele get a pass? What do you think, Catherine? What do you think, Catherine? Are you gonna give him a pass? Can you give him a C minus? Can you he's trying to graduate.
Too many things. He was trying too hard.
Too many.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Maybe
Too visionary.
Too much. Yeah.
Too many colors. He's so colorful.
Yes. Yeah. Too much cinema.
What about you, Jim?
I think the question you have to ask yourself is, man, are you excited for what he does next? That's the kind of thing like that you come out of the movie thinking that was great. Holy cow. What the hell's his next project? Then you go look it up on your phone. But yeah, absolutely pass. Yeah. I loved it. You and I came out of the movie theater when we were giddy the first time we saw it, and I saw it again 3 days or 4 days later. I rarely do that, but part of it was when you bring with your family, you sit and watch the reaction. You're like, oh, that's great. But anyway,
that's a great. I have not seen it again yet. Other things, you know what? I haven't, but I will, and soon. I want to come back to what you said about what's next. And maybe this is a question I've been playing with. Some people were saying, well, it's not as good as the others. And I'm like, the fuck do you want? Like, did you see the movie? But I'm wondering if, like, he hasn't done what I think M. Night Shyamalan, such an amazing success based on a twist, or not based on a twist, because it was a good movie without the twist. The twist hammers home what's going on. It just makes sure you understand what it's about, what the themes really are. Is maybe some of that sincere in part because they've been given, here's a 10, and then here's what Us I didn't think was necessary. Like, I mean, that's a really disturbing idea. But you've got Us, and then this are people just kind of going like it's the hedonic treadmill. They're now just used to, well, of course it's a Jordan Peele movie. I expect all of these things. And if it doesn't give me the same vibe when I had no expectations and was blown away by Get Out, that I'm, Yeah.
Yeah, I think there've been quality where people rank and list all these kinds of things. Whether or not this was, I'd have to watch them all in succession to tell you which one is better than the other. Us maybe is a little bit, a little bit odd in places, but yeah, I don't know. They're not bad movies, and they haven't yet been. It hasn't yet been a poor trip to the movies with a Jordan Peele film. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
even the stuff that he produces is pretty interesting too. So, yeah, we'll see what else he comes up with.
Catherine, you got anything else you wanted to add before we wrap up here, or as we wrap up, I guess?
Nope. I think it was good. I watched it, and then as the credits rolled, I was just sitting there saying, "Wow."
Did you say stay for the final title card?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. I did. My family was all expecting a scene, and they were like, "Is that it?" But in any case, I have one last little point that I wanted to make as a final thought was, it's interesting to me that the Tulsa Race Massacre, or the Black Wall Street, the thing that the Watchmen TV series brought to everyone's attention.
The first time American airplanes bombed an American city.
Yes, yeah, back in the
not
I believe
the,
it was
not the
1920s.
Last time.
Yeah, no,
nope. But the
nope.
first time.
That one, it was brought to a lot of people's attentions, and I keep on hearing it referred to as The Watchmen. The Watchmen is what that series is what showed America what this was. It wasn't covered in any textbooks. It's not generally a super well-known chapter or a very happy or proud chapter of the American experience. And I kind of think if that's one of the reasons that the Horse in Motion film is brought in here, not on the same level, of course, but almost in an educational kind of way. They bring it up, and now I think we all know about Horse in Motion, that the first man, technically, I guess, filmed was a black man, and what does Emerald say? I think she says it. He was the star. He was the stunt guy. He was the, he was everything. And then there's the horse. But I sort of think that that's kind of an interesting direction to go into. And I sort of wonder if that's another way to get that kind of thing to the masses, like the Tulsa Race Massacre. So,
I think it was just a very interesting way of entering. To him, it was obviously a metaphor for a way black people have been treated by the film industry, whether it be on screen or behind. Whether you're crew or on-screen talent. Not so much, because otherwise it's interesting, but it isn't Tulsa. It's just a kind of, oh, that's neat, and you nod, and then you. But it's an excellent metaphor.
I think, though, however, if you see it again in the future, you might be
think of Nope.
Yeah.
It's and all of what he has now added to meaning.
Mm-hmm.
But I will not go, oh, that was a fascinating piece of history that we missed. I'll go, oh, I'll think of Nope. And I'll think of it as a metaphor. Whereas Tulsa, it's this you should look up.
Yes.
This isn't just entertainment. This fucking happened.
But I think it's, they are different things. One's like a 4-second stretch of film, and the other's an entire horrible historical incident. But I think it brings it to the collective consciousness a little better than many of the other sources that we have so far.
I don't know, though, but was the Horse in Motion not in the collective conscience?
I didn't really think about it. I
think about the Lumiere brothers film history.
I think of the train coming into the station and everyone thinking that it's going to come into the theater. I mean, that's sort of what I think about early film.
I think it's an obscure bit of film history that will return to that, except that this movie, like, it's not, wow, we should relook at animal emotion, horse in motion. You know, it's still, in the end, a guy riding a horse, full stop.
But we know a little bit more about it now.
I don't think that was his point. Like I said, he was using it's here's a neat thing. I'll use it as a metaphor. And then it's everything else said after that is what's important. You know, whereas Tulsa, it should be examined, re-examined, like something like that. This is great.
I'm not saying they're on the same level, of course.
Well, no, but you should not, coming out of Nope, go, I really need to look in Horse in Motion. You should be going, fuck, how do I use social media? How do I view, you know, is all minority presentations really just for my entertainment? They better be comic or dangerous or. That's what you should be getting out of Nope. Not, boy, I really need to investigate Horse in Motion. Whereas I think,
and yet I did.
You did, but did you do any of the other stuff? Because if you didn't, then yeah, you know what? Then this is unfortunate, right?
Well, it's an extension of.
Whereas, one is kind of just a neat thing that he used as a jumping off point. What happened in Tulsa? Is what's great, what can be great about film, even when they change it or make something, or there's something wrong about it, is does it encourage people to look into it and have a deeper understanding of their history. And so when you look at what is done with Tulsa in The Watchmen, especially when you think about some of the themes of The Watchmen, there it's an invitation to explore further that history, that hidden history. Whereas Nope, I think, is an invitation to explore more, how are you processing your life now? How are you interacting with, are you connected with are you connected with other human beings as human beings, or are you going, I only see them through a filter of media. I can only consume their image and their constructed image. And if they're not entertaining me, throw them on the heap or in the lonely gulch. Or perhaps, if we can't feed them, sacrifice them to the balloon in the sky.
Yeah.
That's my final thought.
Okay.
I got nowhere to go with that. Everyone, Jim and I have had a difference of opinion here, which is always wonderful for our show. It's nothing uncomfortable at all.
No, it's fine. We agree. I think we agree too much often. So,
what I will do, though, is remind everyone, next week, Sunday, 9:45 p.m., Central Daylight Time, Coordinated Universal Time, -5. Yes, -5, because we sprang forward. We'll be looking at Perea. And when I say we, I mean myself, Jim, of course, and my friend this way, Catharine. We'll be talking about Perea next week. And I am working on another special guest, but we'll have to wait on that. I'm hoping that works out. But if it doesn't, the three of us will have a wonderful conversation anyway. If you want to see it, if you're in the United States, you can see it on Hulu. In Canada, and I think in other Disney Plus jurisdictions outside of the United States, you can see it on Disney Plus or their Stars. Not Stars with a Z, but Stars. They got the Star Network or whatever the hell it is. You can see it there. Check it out. And again, my short little reaction, spoiler-free kind of virtual parking lot reaction will come out tonight or tomorrow. All right. I think that's about it, guys. Let's say goodbye to everyone in the chat, all the wonderful people in the best chat on the internet, including we got Dragon Movie Guy, Matthew David Bowren. Thank you very much, Matt. Got us thinking about a few things. Of course, Cody Brockup from the Brockup side. And we got Richard L. and Katie Fowler.
Katie.
And am I missing anyone?
I don't think so.
I think I got
Just
everyone.
doing a quick scan here. Yeah, I think that's about it. And all the lurkers.
Oh yeah. Well, my parents
Yes.
were watching,
Oh
my gosh.
wonderful.
What?
You know,
but
That's,
I guess they didn't chat. They
I would have cleaned up my language if I'd known.
so maybe it's good you didn't, because we would have been self-conscious. One of our
Exactly.
hosts,
Yeah.
their
Needed
folks are watching.
Your true raw response.
Yeah.
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 Well, that's good.
All right,
Catherine's mom and
everybody.
dad.
Okay, let's all just wave goodbye.
Tell your mom and dad to subscribe. We're almost at 300.
Okay.
Oh, no.
Oh, sorry.
Ignore that.
Cut it out.
We only want subscriptions because you actually want to subscribe. Like, no bullshit. Oh, get us over this limit. Just don't.
Okay.
Saying that to everyone. Subscribe only if you want to.
come
Of course, we want
on.
your subscription, but only if you want to. Where
What if you
otherwise
might
it's-
watch possibly sometime in the future, maybe?
that's great. Then he'll subscribe. All right.
There you go.
I'm muting you guys. I'm it's time to wrap this up. Okie doke, folks. Again, thank you all very much for joining us here on Jim and Rob Overanalyze Movies. Have a wonderful evening, and again, we'll see you next week. Ciao for now. Bye-bye.